Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to tackle something that's right at the heart of every successful project. We're talking about the system for turning that inevitable chaos into, well, predictable control.
All right, but before we really get into the weeds, let me ask you something. Think about a project you've been on, maybe one that went a little off the rails. What do you think was the real culprit, the thing that secretly did it in?
Yeah, more often than not, it's this right here, uncontrolled change. See, it's usually not some big, spectacular explosion. It's more like a death by a thousand cuts, right? Just a series of small, unmanaged tweaks that slowly, quietly derail your budget and your timeline, one tiny yes at a time. And that whole phenomenon, it's got a name you've probably heard before, scope creep. And honestly, this is the number one problem that a really solid, formal change process is built to solve. It's the big boss we're trying to defeat here. Okay, so here's our game plans for today. First, we're going to accept that change is going to happen. Then, we'll look at the central system for dealing with it. We'll dissect what a change request actually is, peek under the hood at the decision-making engine, and then finally, see how it all comes together in the real world. Let's do it. All right. First things first. Before we can even think about controlling change, we have to accept a fundamental truth about, well, pretty much any project worth doing. And the PMBOK guide is crystal clear on this. It says, change is inevitable, therefore some type of change control process is mandatory for every project. You just can't stop it. Your stakeholders are going to have brilliant new ideas, the market's going to zig when you thought it would zag. Stuff happens. So the goal isn't to build a wall against change, it's to build a really smart system to manage it when it knocks on your door. So, okay, if change is a given, what's the system we're supposed to use? Well, let's pull back the curtain on the formal process designed for this exact challenge. So here's the official lingo. Perform integrated change control. Now the magic word here, the one you really got to focus on, is integrated. This isn't about looking at a request in a tiny little box and saying yes or no. It's about seeing the whole chessboard. It's about understanding how a tiny tweak to the schedule over here might cause a huge ripple effect on your budget, your scope, your risk, everything. I love this analogy. Think of it as the air traffic control tower for your entire project. Seriously, every single plane, every potential change, big or small, has to get clearance from this tower before it can land. It's the single place where every request gets evaluated, not on its own, but against everything else happening in the sky. This way, you make sure only the approved changes actually get implemented. Okay, so we've got our control tower. Makes sense. But what kind of data is flowing into that tower? What do the controllers need to see on their radar to make a smart call? You know, it really boils down to three key pieces of information. First, you need the rulebook. That's your project management plan, your baselines, what you originally agreed to do. Second, you need a reality check. That's your performance reports that show how things are actually going. And third, of course, you need the proposal, the change request itself, the thing that's asking to modify the plan. And here's a key thing. Not all change requests are created equal. They generally fall into one of four buckets. You've got corrective action. That's for when you're already off track and need to get back on. Then there's preventive action, which is about looking ahead and stopping a problem before it happens. Defect repair is pretty straightforward. Something's broken, you gotta fix it. And finally, updates, which is just housekeeping really, making sure your documents reflect the current reality. Okay, let's clear something up that trips a lot of people up, the difference between change control and configuration control. Here's the easiest way to think about it. Change control is the what and the if. It decides if we should change the project plan. Configuration control is the which. It manages the version of the thing being changed. So change control says, yes, let's approve adding a new feature. Configuration control makes sure we know exactly which version of the product has that feature. One manages the change, the other manages the item being changed. Super important distinction. All right, so a change request has landed. It's filled out correctly, all the info's there. Now what? How does that control tower actually make the call? Let's look at the decision-making engine. Well, in most serious projects, this isn't left up to one person. That'd be way too much pressure, right? Instead, the authority lies with a group called the Change Control Board, or CCB. And having a board like this is so critical because it takes the politics out of it. It ensures the decision is made based on what's best for the project, not just who's shouting the loudest. So what's their job? They're basically the impartial judges. Their core responsibility is to look at every request, figure out all the ripple effects it could have on cost, schedule, risk, the whole nine yards. Then they make the call, approve it,
reject it, or maybe defer it if they need more info. And this is key. Every single decision gets written down and shared with everyone who needs to know. And how do they avoid just going with their gut? They use tools, like this one. This is a great example of multi-criteria decision analysis. It's a fancy way of saying they score each change against a set of criteria that everyone agreed on beforehand. Maybe strategic value is the most important thing, so it gets 40% of the weight. Then cost and risk get 30% each. This forces a really objective, data-driven conversation. It's not about what's popular, it's about what's right. Okay, so we've covered the inputs and the engine. Now let's talk about the outputs. What actually comes out of this whole process? What are the tangible results you can hold in your hand? You can really see the whole story of a change right here. It all starts when a stakeholder submits that formal request. Then the CCB does its thing, reviewing it from every angle. If they give it the green light, if it gets approved, it then goes to the project team to actually get implemented. And the whole time, every step of this journey is captured in the change log. Nothing gets lost. So at the end of the day, you're left with three crucial outputs. First, the approved change requests. This is the official go-ahead, the green light for the team. Second, you get updates to the project management plan itself. This is huge because it means everyone is now working from the same updated playbook. And third, you have that updated changelog, which becomes the single source of truth for every change decision ever made on the project. Now, it is so important to remember that this isn't a one-size-fits-all deal. How you handle change really depends on your project. In a more traditional, predictive world, the main goal is to protect your baselines, so that formal CCB process is king. But in an agile world, change isn't the enemy, it's an opportunity. It's expected, even welcomed. Instead of a CCB, you have a product owner who just adds new ideas to the backlog and constantly reprioritizes to deliver the most value. See the difference? It's about controlling change versus embracing change. But here's the bottom line. Whether you're in a predictive or an adaptive environment, the core benefit of having a structured way to handle change is exactly the same. It forces you to consider every change in an integrated way. It makes you zoom out and look at the big picture, protecting your project from the huge risks that come from making siloed decisions in a vacuum. And that really brings us to the final, crucial question you have to ask yourself. Is your change process just a bureaucratic gate that slows everything down, a roadblock that everyone tries to get around? Or is it a strategic enabler, a powerful tool that helps you make smart decisions and steer your project to success? Which one do you have, and which one do you want?